In Houston, Texas, at one of the city's most respected hospitals, a man who had dedicated his life to saving others was suddenly gone. Dr. Michael Everett wasn't just a physician, he was a lifeline. For decades, he treated patients with compassion and skill, and for his community, he wasn't only a doctor, he was a symbol of trust. But on the evening of June 14th, that trust was shattered. Dr. Everett was found dead, alone in his office. His sudden death shocked patients, paralyzed colleagues, and left investigators grappling with one chilling question. Was this a random act of violence or something far more sinister? To understand the weight of his loss, you have to know who Michael Everett was. Born and raised in Houston, he had always been drawn to medicine. Friends remembered a boy who spent hours caring for stray animals, a teenager who volunteered in nursing homes, and a young man who told everyone he wanted to make people feel safe in the darkest moment of their lives. By the time he joined St. Mary's Medical Center, Dr. Everett had built more than a career. He had built a reputation. He was a gifted surgeon, calm under pressure, always the last to leave the operating room. Nurses described him as unshakable. Patients called him kind. And colleagues admitted that, even in the often competitive world of medicine, he stood out for his humility. But behind every life of service lies another story, one that isn't always visible to the world. On the night of his death, Dr. Everett had stayed late in his office. He often worked long hours, reviewing charts, finishing paperwork, or making late phone calls to patients' families. When he didn't show up the next morning for a scheduled surgery, a rarity for a man known for his punctuality, colleagues grew concerned. At 6:45 a.m., a nurse unlocked his office door. What she saw froze her in place. Dr. Everett sat slumped at his desk. His chair had toppled backward. A file cabinet drawer was left ajar. His face was pale, his body motionless. On the surface, there were no obvious signs of struggle, no blood, no broken glass. But something didn't add up. His watch was still on his wrist, his wallet untouched, and the office itself looked almost staged. The hospital, once a place of healing, became a crime scene. At first, investigators suspected a random act of violence. Perhaps someone had slipped in after hours, but there was no forced entry. The security cameras showed no break-in. Then came the autopsy. Toxicology reports revealed a trace of an unusual sedative in Dr. Everett's system. Not enough to be considered therapeutic, but enough to incapacitate him, a drug available only to medical professionals. Detectives began pulling at threads in his life. That's when the image of the beloved doctor began to blur. Financial records revealed that Dr. Everett was drowning in debt, millions tied to risky investments, loans he had kept hidden from his colleagues, even from his closest friends. Then there was his phone. Logs showed repeated late-night calls to a number that investigators couldn't immediately trace. The calls stopped abruptly the week before his death. And then, the most personal discovery, a locked box in his office, tucked behind medical journals. Inside were letters, handwritten, emotional, addressed to a woman named Clara. The letters spoke of regret, of longing, and of secrets he could not share with anyone else. Narrator, intensifying tone. But the case took a darker turn when investigators reviewed hospital surveillance footage. On the night of Everett's death, just an hour before he was found, another doctor had entered the building. That man was Dr. Samuel Wright, a colleague Everett had once mentored. Wright was brilliant, but carried a shadow of resentment. For years, he had worked in Everett's department, always overshadowed by his mentor's reputation. While Everett received awards and recognition, Wright remained in the background. When questioned, Wright insisted he was at the hospital to retrieve paperwork, but his story shifted under scrutiny. First, he said he was there until 9 p.m. Later, he admitted leaving closer to midnight. And then came the evidence. His fingerprints on the overturned chair in Everett's office. The question investigators couldn't answer was, why? Jealousy? Revenge? Or something far more complicated? The autopsy results, the sedative in Everett's system, and Wright's presence all pointed in one direction. But no conclusive proof tied Wright to the death. And still, Clara remained a ghost. No address, no record, No trace of her existence beyond the letters. Who was she? A lover? A confidant? Or someone whose involvement in Everett's life was far more dangerous? Months turned into years. The case grew cold. St. Mary's Medical Center locked Dr. Everett's office, leaving it untouched, a haunting reminder of man